Hey there, Georgie here with Ukraine Matters. Yesterday something unprecedented happened. Russia attacked a NATO state. And in their ambition to test the limits of Article 5, they are now waiting for reaction. And to say the least, the reaction is pretty underwhelming. But we will talk about this and I will explain to you why we can be absolutely sure that it was a deliberate attack to test our resolve and not some kind of accident where drones just happened to fly into the territory of Poland. They just masked it together with the attack on Ukraine, where was hundreds of missiles flying all over the territory of Ukraine together with the drones. I know because I am right now in Ukraine and I was spending some of my time during the last night in the shelter. And let's start today's episode of the Daily News Show. So yesterday Russia flew some drones into Poland and it has been already reported that there was quite a lot of them. At first it was expected to be just a couple of these drones like it happened before, then it was reported that it was at least 4, then it was 10, and then final number that we know of today is 19. So it was a massive wave of combat drones flying in different directions on territory of Poland. Let me read you the quote from the Polish defense minister. By order of the operational commander of the Polish armed forces, weapons have been deployed and services are actively working to determine the locations of the downed objects. We emphasize that the military operation is still ongoing and we urge people to stay indoors. The most threatened areas are Podlaiskie, Mazovian and Lublin voivodeships. The statement reads. Poland had to scramble interceptors to take care of the flying drones and spend quite a lot of money, of taxpayers' money, to intercept these drones, and it also caused damages. Thankfully, no one was hurt, and I believe this is the only grace that a lot of our politicians are grasping to not kind of declare a full-blown NATO Article 5 emergency, is that, well, there were some bombs in the skies, but, they only damaged a building, and they only had us, forced us to close down one of the biggest European airports in Warsaw. And while we're hearing some loud statements, for example, this one coming from Donald Tusk as he spoke to the Polish parliament, the situation brings us closest we have ever been to an open conflict since World War II. Besides that, Poland only right now triggered Article 4 of the NATO treaty. Article 4 basically says that there should be consultations made in between the member states on how to treat this aggression towards their member states. It's a relatively non-binding article of the treaty. And I want to show you this map by Special Kherson Cat, because looking at this map, you start looking at the situation a lot more broadly. Poland is a big country. It's a pretty big country. If you've ever been to Europe and you've been driving through Poland, you know how big it is. So the red spots on the map that you see here, those are where Russian drones have been found. So they didn't just fly in the border areas near Ukraine. They also flew quite deep inside of the Polish territory. Specifically, we see a drone that is not that far from northern city of Gdańsk and also around the city of Łódź, which is pretty much dead center inside of Poland. And more importantly, there have been already signs that Russia is preparing to do something like this. On the downed drones, there have already been found Polish and Lithuanian SIM cards so they can connect to the mobile internet and help them navigate in case of the other types of navigation gets jammed. So yes, these drones are fully capable and Russia has already conducted these operations to make sure that if they want to test flight these drones and test the resolve of our common security, then they can easily do so. It was very troubling for Poland to shoot down all of the drones. Some of the drones, it is reported that Poland lost the track of completely, which again raises the questions. It was only about 19 drones that are reported so far. We don't know for sure how many of them were there. But if it was 19 drones and part of these drones were just lost, and only a couple of them were shot down, I believe the latest reports were around 5 that were confirmed shot down, then does it mean that other ones were just able to fly wherever they wanted and we just didn't have the capabilities to scramble, and it was only sheer luck that we didn't see anyone being wounded or killed? This is a very direct challenge by Russia to our resolve. Russia is an aggressor state. Russia will not stop until it is stopped. And when I say Ukraine matters, it matters not just because Ukraine is a state and needs to survive and fight their war and we need to support Ukraine, which we must do, but also while Russia is fighting Ukraine and Ukraine has the capabilities to fully attract attention of Russia, then these drones will not fly over our cities, despite the fact that with the current situation, Russia is doing it anyway, because we're not supplying Ukrainian with enough ammunition and weapons to take out the production of these weapons, and we're not putting secondary sanctions on the countries that help supply Russia with the component it needs to produce these deadly weapons that are now flying on our territory as well. Ukrainian anti-drone technology is developing very successfully. President Zelensky is reporting that a fifth of the Russian drones that are attacking Ukraine almost daily is being shut down by the Ukrainian Interceptor drones. And being here and talking with some of the military, I can tell you that this number will just go up, up, up to help Ukraine fight and defend itself. And actually us, as we remember from the last news that I just covered, that potentially this will be a great security benefits for us. So we don't have to fly and shoot down multi-100,000 missiles at cheap Chinese drones. Crimea, I will not stop repeating this, but Crimea is a toxic asset for Russia and Ukrainians are continuing exploiting that asset for their benefits. Ukrainian military intelligence has reported that more anti-air and radar installations have been targeted in Crimea, impacting Russian ability to oversee the skies and defend Crimea. This will continue happening, and as Ukrainians are putting more and more pressure and Russia is forced to bring in more and more new equipment to the area, at some point their air defense will just become untenable. And now with the recent discoveries that we talked about yesterday with the new missiles coming into Ukraine, a very important strike happened in the drone strike on Topaz factory of Ukraine. It was a very relevant strike because this factory is been now used as one of the major command point for the Russian military. They were responsible specifically for the command of military around the Pokrovsk area. Some estimate that some of the latest moves that Russian military has been conducting in the Pokrovsk area, I've talked about this in my recent map update video, and that Russia is acting almost purely on instinct, and it is reported by Ukrainians that they're basically running like lemmings into what is turning to be potentially a very deadly trap. And people are linking this to strike to obviously this Topaz factory, but also some other strikes where Ukrainians took out the command of certain brigades, units, and even like army corps that are responsible for operating on the Pokrovsk region. Interestingly, in this strike, if you look at the videos that you can check out on our Discord server, you will hear that it's not just the regular moped drone noise you will be hearing, but you will also hear reactive drone noise, which means that Ukrainians have used some of the reactive drones, and it's been expected that this was the hybrid drone missile hybrid Palanitsa that is now being used to target Russian command. If this is the case, and if this show resolve and Ukraine is going to win bigly in Pokrovsk, we will see definitely a scale in Ukrainian strikes against the Russian command points. Of course, we must never forget that Russia is right now going down the drain with their ability to produce and supply gasoline, and Ukrainians are doing everything in their power to make sure that it is indeed what's happening. And Ukrainians have targeted a major pipeline that delivers diesel to the Moscow region. This is important because a lot of Russians that are living in Moscow, because they are so rich and they have everything, for them pretty much nothing changed since 2022. Despite the fact that in the regions, as you follow the news, you've seen already lines where people lining up to get fuel in their cars, Moscow is pretty much living as they used to, even pre-war. For them, nothing really changed. So any pressure that Ukrainians are able to put on the Moscow region will come back tenfold as a benefit for the Ukrainian military, as it will cause more and more issues within Russian society. But in general, General Syrskyi is reporting that in the month of August, they have struck 60 valuable targets inside of Russia. So 2 a day is a current ratio of damage of Russian facilities. We're going to be looking if September will be more beneficial than that, but 2 a day of Russian either pipelines or oil refining factories or some notable storage facilities is a great result, and I'm hoping to see more and more and more. And don't get me wrong, it will get worse and worse for Russia. Russian food inflation is now growing back up. We saw some deflation in Russia, and some of the propagandists and Russia shills jumped the gun, stating, that's it, there is no more inflation in Russia, Russian economy is stable. Eat that, you Georgie, you, despite the fact that it was not me talking that Russian economy is doing really bad, that by now it's the Russian economists and pretty much anyone but Putin himself that are stating that the state of the Russian economy is very pitiful. And as the inflation in Russia is truly biting, specifically the people that are depending on food, Russia and Putin are ordering the food producers and ordering the food prices to not rise. Just stop right there, you criminal scum. Don't you dare rising to the inflation levels, you food price, you. We will not allow it. Yes, so they're trying to conduct different activities to order either the food producers, what they should and shouldn't do, to try to control for prices. And to put it very shortly, I will quote a Russian-born economist, Igor Lipsitz. Russia is now shifting towards a fully planned command-style system with all its usual flaws. Constant food shortages, long queues, and everything else that comes with it. Well, Putin did aim to recreate the empire and the Soviet Union. He's definitely achieving and moving towards it. But how people say, there is a bit of a nuance to that. But more good news are coming here for Ukraine from the European Union in the aim of support, because the new SAFE program with 150 billion allocated funds will allow countries such as Poland, which is a front runner and is aiming to get some 40 billions allocated from the SAFE program. It is said that a lot of that program will also benefit Ukraine and will be counted in to help benefit Ukraine, allowing European Union to support Ukraine even more, and specifically Poland, as it now is in the spotlight due to what I've discussed earlier in this video. I truly believe that helping Ukraine and fighting Russian aggression will become a lot more prevalent in Poland after this night. But also Germany, that is doing already a lot for Ukraine, and this is where we truly and fully by this point moved away from the inactivity that was happening under Scholz to now the action where we are fully in and supporting Ukraine with MERS. I know MERS can have different opinions within Germany itself, but from the outside view and what Germany is doing for Ukraine, it is fantastic. And the newly launched 350 million Ukraine drone plan is a fantastic benefit for it. Ukraine needs more drones. Drones are the absolute best bang for buck for the modern battlefield. We see this happening all across different dimensions of the warfare in Ukraine, and it is great that we in Europe are the front runners, because we will come out stronger of this, and we will definitely make sure that Russia remember to never come back to Europe. Support Ukraine, trust in Ukrainian armed forces. I love you. Slava Ukraini, and I will see you next time.